Ladies and gentlemen, this video is either going to radically change the way you look at life, or it might frustrate and confuse you, and you will just go back to your 9-to-5 life and act as if nothing has happened. Every so often, the truth will come across your path in life. So are you going to look this truth in the face, or are you going to run and hide from it? In this video, I'm going to present to you the globe earth versus the flat earth, aka globe earthers versus flat earthers. I'm going to present these facts from both sides, from both point of views, and I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. This video will be based on using common sense and logic to try to find the truth. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that I have been living in the mountains for 50 years. I am a very smart mountain man who has never watched TV, who has never seen the internet, and who has never read a newspaper. Nothing. The news and the media have not influenced me in any way. My mind is a blank slate, and I am searching for the truth. I will use common sense and logic to try to find this truth. But before I get into these globe versus flat comparisons, I have to ask you some other very important questions. Think of these questions as kind of a litmus test to see where you are and your level of truth. How much time have you really spent researching the truth? For example, who owns the Federal Reserve? Most people will quickly say, well, the government does. Really? If you believe that, then you might want to do some more research. Woodrow Wilson even stated that he ruined our country by allowing the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. How did Building 7 fall on 9/11 when no planes hit it? How does a 47-story steel, concrete, and rebar reinforced building fall in 8 seconds in near free fall speed? Why did the lease owner, Larry Silverstein, say to pull it, which is a demolition term?
Pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed, 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Common sense tells us that pull it means that the building was rigged with explosives and then someone hit a button and the building came down just like a demolition. And common sense tells us that if one building was rigged with explosives, then most likely the other 2 buildings were also rigged. If you don't know about 9/11 being a false flag event, then you might want to do some more research. What was the main reason that the US got heavily involved in the Vietnam War? The official story is that it was the Gulf of Tonkin incident in which 3 North Korean PT boats tried to attack the Navy ship, the USS Maddox. This incident urged Congress to approve the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution on August 7, 1964. The US continued to fight in the Vietnam War until 1975, with millions upon millions of men, women, and children losing their lives. What if I told you that many years later, the truth came out that the Gulf of Tonkin incident didn't happen the way history tells us? It was a staged event to get the United States heavily involved in the war. So we fought in a war under false pretenses, and millions of people lost their lives because of it. Have you ever researched that? And what about the Bilderberg Group? Every year, about 120 of the world's richest people get together in a private meeting. They've been doing this since 1954. Why are they doing this? What are they discussing? Is this even legal? Did you know about this group? And what about the Bohemian Grove private meetings? Have you researched this? In mid-July every year, Bohemian Grove, located in Monte Rio, California, hosts a 2-week encampment of some of the most prominent men in the world.
It is nestled among the redwoods, 2,700 acres of pristine land, broken down into dozens of camps. And for 2 weeks every July since the 1880s, they've been filled with some of the most wealthy and powerful men in the world. Many of them arrive on their corporate jets at the nearby Sonoma County Airport. Others arrive in fancy cars, which will fill the on-site parking lot. At its height, there is said to be more than 2,000 men who attend, and as you can imagine, they are well protected by a trove of police.
This is private property.
Yeah, I know. So we're out covering the protest, and we just wanted to see if there was anyone that could give us...
I would like you guys to get off the property, please.
There's no way we could just get an escort?
No, not at all, and I'll have the police come and arrest you if you don't leave, please.
Okay.
What are they doing there? It is alleged that they might be performing homosexual activities and may even be doing some kind of mock human sacrifice ritual. So did you know about this group? Did you know that there is an elite group out there called the 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati? There are many names for them: the New World Order, the Shadow Government, the Secret Society. Did you know that it is quite possible that they are running this entire world to fit their own agendas? Have you researched them? Did you know that JFK tried to warn us about this evil group of people, and we know what happened to him? Here is a short segment of his infamous speech where he is warning us about these secret societies.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
These are just a few examples of the kind of deceptions that are going on in the world around us. I could go on and on with different examples just like these, but I just wanted to show you a few to see what level of truth you are at. Did you know about all of these? What I find strange is that most of the globe earthers I talk to have no idea about these deceptions, And most of the flat earthers I talk to do know about these deceptions. Why is that? Are globe earthers closed-minded and flat earthers open-minded? I don't know the answer to that. So are you ready? Let's look at these 30 comparisons of globe earth versus flat earth to see if we can get to the bottom of this issue. Let's find out the truth together. This is probably the number one proof that globe earthers will use to try to prove the earth is a sphere. They will say, see, just look at the pictures from NASA. That's all you need. And I agree, they look pretty convincing. But the majority of pictures that we see of the earth are computer-generated images, or CGI. So flat earthers will say, if we are to believe all of these pictures that NASA gives us, then why are they all different shapes, sizes, and colors? Shouldn't the pictures all match up and be the same? They're taking pictures of the same Earth year after year, right? So why is there such a big discrepancy? So why are the landmasses different sizes? Why are the oceans different colors? There's dark blue and light blue. It seems to be a great mystery. And in this picture, it looks pretty obvious that there's a huge problem. In the 2012 image, the United States looks 3 times bigger than the 2015 image. What would a globe earther say to that? If I was the computer programmer working for NASA that made this 2012 image, I would be really pissed at the guy who made this 2015 image. I would call him up and say, dude, what did you do? You made the United States 3 times smaller. What's wrong with you? You got some explaining to do. And to make matters even worse, Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist, author, and leading science communicator, said in this interview that the Earth is slightly wider below the equator than above the equator, making it more pear-shaped.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. Yeah. It gets wider in the middle. And so Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning. And it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere. It's oblate. And officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubbier.
Yeah.
Chubby's a good way. It's like pear-shaped. Pear-shaped.
So the logical question is this. Is the Earth a complete sphere like the NASA images show us, or is it more pear-shaped? If it is more pear-shaped, then why don't the pictures from NASA reflect that? It appears that there is some deception going on here. So I ask both globe earthers and flat earthers, can we trust these CGI pictures? And if not, then there goes the number one proof for globe earthers. Many flat earthers are wrong about this and say that there are no real, entire pictures of the Earth. Apparently, there are 4 real pictures of Earth as seen here. The famous blue marble picture taken from the Apollo mission, one taken from a Japanese spacecraft, one taken from the moon, and one taken from very deep space. The first question that comes to mind is, why are there no stars? These are real pictures, not CGI, where they could have accidentally taken the stars out. So where did they go? Also, there are different color oceans again, which makes no sense. And then there is Africa. It's nice that Africa appears in all 4 pictures so we can compare them. We all know that when an object moves farther away from us, the smaller it becomes. Picture number 1 is taken from the closest distance, and Africa appears to be the biggest. Okay, that's good. But picture number 3 is taken from 10 times farther away than picture number 1. And it's only a little bit smaller? No way. And picture number 4 is taken from nearly twice as far as picture number 2. So shouldn't it be about half the size as picture number 2? But look how much bigger number 4 is over number 2. And finally, picture number 4 is taken from 35 times further away. That's right, 35 times further away than picture number 1. Yet it appears almost the same size and with the same amount of detail? You gotta be kidding me. Like I said a minute ago, we all know that as an object moves farther and farther away, the smaller it becomes and the less detailed it becomes. But I guess in NASA world, it doesn't work that way. So let me ask you this. Wouldn't it be really easy for NASA to just say that these are real pictures and then just slip in some fake CGI ones instead? And I thought the Earth was more pear-shaped anyway, like we just watched Neil explain to us. It just doesn't add up. Let's say a cargo ship is leaving from Los Angeles and heading across the ocean to Honolulu, Hawaii. I will use Google Maps so any one of you can do this exact same thing. It's a distance of 2,559 miles. Here is a picture of it zoomed out a little. And here's a picture of it with the black line and the 2 dots zoomed out so we can see it next to the curve of the Earth. So we can do a little experiment. Since the Earth is curved, we can determine how much it curves over a given distance when we have a starting and an ending point. And in the middle of this curve will be a bulge, or an apex point. Using this Earth curvature bulge calculator and plugging in the 2,559 mile distance between Los Angeles and Honolulu, we get a bulge of 1,082,285 feet. I will leave a link to this calculator down below. And converting these feet to miles, we get 205 miles. And to double check this calculation, let's use this bulge calculator from metabunk.org, which is the preferred one that globe earthers like to use. We see that the bulge would be 212 miles. I will leave a link to this down below as well. So what does this all mean? It means that in between Los Angeles and Honolulu, the bulge point or the apex point is at 212 miles. That means that the boat would have to slowly go up a slight incline for 106 miles to hit this apex point, and then slowly go down a slope for 106 miles to reach Honolulu. And that just depends on what direction the boat is going. So this raises all kinds of questions. Does the boat captain have to make adjustments to the engine speed to make up for this incline and decline? If there is an apex at 212 miles, how does the water maintain its level? Both globe earthers and flat earthers know that water is always level, and if needed, it will flow downhill until it does find this level point. So wouldn't this water slowly flow down both sides of this apex point, leaving a gap in the middle? Our oceans would be filled with trenches everywhere. I'm not sure what globe earthers will say to this. Maybe that since gravity pulls down everywhere equally, that the boat and the water wouldn't notice any of these effects? But that doesn't make any sense, because if the Earth is a sphere, like NASA tells us, then we can measure the curve of the sphere using complex math formulas. And we just did that. Gravity can't change the shape of the Earth. I get this strange feeling that globe earthers think that gravity can magically change the shape of the physical Earth that we live on, making the curve disappear. And I know what flat earthers will say. There is no curve of the Earth, therefore the ship goes straight across the oceans and the water is flat also. There are no bulge points to have to calculate on a flat Earth. So which one makes more sense? I think it's pretty obvious. We can apply this same bulge calculation to the entire United States. The distance from San Francisco to New York is 2,570 miles. And here it is zoomed out a little bit. And here it is zoomed so we can see the black line and the dots near the edge of the curve of the Earth, just like in the last example. If we use the Globe Earthers Preferred Bulge Calculator and plug in the 2,570 miles, we get a bulge of 214 miles. 214 miles? This is staggering. That means that a car driving from San Francisco to the halfway point of the United States would have to drive up a gradual incline of 107 miles to reach this apex point. This is what it would look like if we lived on a curved, spherical Earth. And also think about this. The highest point in the lower 48 states is Mount Whitney at 14,505 feet. And the lowest point is at Death Valley at minus 282 feet. That's a difference of only 2.69 miles. If 2.69 miles is the largest altitude difference we have in the entire United States, then how in the heck is it possible to have a 214-mile bulge in the middle of it? Could you imagine a bicycle rider planning his route across the United States? He would say, for the first half of the trip, I will be pedaling uphill the entire time until I get to this apex point. And for the second half of the trip to New York, I will be going downhill the entire time, so I won't need to pedal very much at all. And as he is pedaling along, he says, hey, wait a second, this looks pretty flat to me. I think that both globe earthers and flat earthers are starting to see that the calculations just don't add up for a spherical Earth. Let's do this bulge calculation one more time, because this is very important. If we live on a spherical Earth, and if we have a beginning and an ending point, we should always be able to calculate this bulge point. Using Google Maps again, the Mississippi River is approximately 1,286 miles in a straight line. Here it is zoomed out a little bit. And here it is on the side so we can see the curve of the Earth. Let's use the Globe Earthers Preferred Bulge Calculator again and plug in the 1,286 miles. We get a bulge of 52.57 miles. This is what it would look like if we lived on a curved, spherical Earth. The water from the river would have to travel up 26 miles of a slight angle to get to this apex point, and then the water would have to travel down a 26-mile slope to get to the outlet at the Gulf of Mexico. Now, we all know that water travels downhill to find its new level point. So the Mississippi River, or any long river for that matter, is impossible on a ball Earth. This 52-mile apex point would be higher than both sides of the river, so water would have to flow back down both sides. The river would be interrupted by this bulge point. So flat earthers know that long rivers are impossible on a spherical Earth. So the last three examples were calculating the Earth's bulge based on having no viewer and having no eye height. But now, let's look at an example of something we can see off in the distance that we shouldn't be able to see on a curved Earth. Here is the famous Chicago skyline mirage photo. This photo was taken by Joshua Nowicki from Grand Mere State Park in Michigan. Here is Google Maps showing Grand Mere State Park. Looking across Lake Michigan from the park, the Chicago skyline is 54.59 miles across the lake. Here is a zoomed out shot to see the surrounding areas. Let's do some calculations to see if this is even possible on a globe Earth. Putting in an eye height of 10 feet, just to be safe, because maybe Joshua was up on a hill away from the shore a little bit. And putting in 54.59 miles, we get a target hidden height of 1,715 feet. And to verify our calculations, here is the Globe Earthers Metabunk calculator showing the exact same 1,715 target hidden height. Let me explain what this means. Looking at this graph, the HO stands for eye height. So the blue arrow represents where Joshua would have been standing to take the photo from a height of 10 feet. Next, we have the horizon, or D1, and that distance is 3.87 miles. So Joshua would have been able to see 3.87 miles, and then the horizon would start to drop off due to the curve of the Earth. Then we have DO. That is the total distance, which is 54.59 miles. And finally, we have H1. This is the target hidden height of 1,715 feet. So the red arrow represents where the Chicago buildings would be. Okay? Got it so far? This is where it gets interesting. We have a total hidden height of 1,715 feet. But the tallest building in Chicago is the Willis Tower at 1,451 feet. So the entire Chicago skyline, including the Willis Tower, would have been below the horizon and out of sight. The Willis Tower is 264 feet too low to be seen from where Joshua was taking this photo. The only way for Joshua to have been able to take a picture of any building from that distance is if the building was over 1,715 feet. Now this is where globe earthers will jump in and cry foul. They will say, but you didn't take into account for atmospheric refraction. Here is a quick definition. Atmospheric refraction causes a distant object to appear higher than its actual position. As a result, the object can be physically behind Earth's curvature, but is still visible because the light coming from it is refracted by the atmosphere. Atmospheric refraction is highly debated and is also very confusing to think that you can see something that's actually not there. Regardless of that, let's take it into account and see what would happen. Using the Metabone calculator with this standard refraction, we get a refracted hidden height of 1,452 feet. So, since the Willis Tower is the highest building in Chicago at 1,451 feet, we would not be able to see a refracted image either because it would have been short by 1 foot. This picture is not possible on a globe Earth, with or without refraction. Yet we can see the entire skyline? Listen to this short video as a weatherman tries his best to explain that this is a mirage effect.
Until I found this photo from Grandmere State Park. This is from Joshua Nowicki, and what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting here. Here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west, and Chicago's beyond the horizon. Should not be able to see it. However, with the right conditions, we have an inversion. We have cold air near the cold lake water and some relatively warmer air above it. This will bend the image of that skyline back towards the viewer. And so typically we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky, up in space.
Up in space. He had to throw that in there, didn't he? Well, Mr. Weatherman, this image being a superior mirage is impossible. Why? Because using either calculation method, the image would not have been visible at all. I think this example proves that the only way for us to be able to see these buildings from that distance is if there is no curve to the Earth. It seems that the Earth's curve is missing. Let's do one more example to try to find the curve. If we measure the distance from Wailua River State Park on the island of Kauai to the highest point on Oahu, which is Mount Kaala, we get a distance of 88 miles. This video was taken by Terry Robinson. He took it from an overlook at Wailua River State Park. Let's watch, and then we will do the calculations.
Now here is a shot that I took early in the morning. You can clearly see Oahu off in the distance. Remember, this is about 100 miles away. This is taken from the Wailua River State Park. There's an overlook here. You can clearly see the landmass. Here's another image of it. This is not a mirage, and it's not refraction. You can clearly see it. Just did a little pan here to show you where I'm at. This is Wailua River State Park. You can see the roosters off in the background. This is the island of roosters. And there's Oahu. So, if we were on a curved Earth, just because of the curve, you would not be able to see this landmass. It's too far away. It would be below the horizon.
Using the Metabunk calculator, we plug in 88 miles for the distance, and from Terry's video, he stated that he was at a height of 200 feet. So we plug in a viewer height of 200 feet, and the results we get are 3,331 feet of hidden height, ignoring refraction. I'm going to ignore the refracted height for this calculation, because if you think that video had refraction in it, then I guess you don't trust your own eyes. If we subtract the 3,331 hidden height from the 4,025 height of the mountain, we get a visible height of only 694 feet. That's right, we should only be able to see 694 feet of this mountain range. Everything under 694 feet would be hidden below the horizon point of the curved Earth. We shouldn't be able to see any of the land at these red arrow points. So it appears that the curve is missing in Hawaii also. I have heard globe earthers say, if the Earth is flat and Antarctica is the outer border, as seen in this flat Earth model, then show me the ice wall. Well, anyone can do a quick internet search and find them. Here are some images from a Yahoo search. And a globe earther might say, well, images can be altered and might be fake, so show me a video of the ice wall. Okay, here's a short clip showing the ice wall taken by Ralph Clarence. I will leave a link down below so you can watch his entire video. Flat earthers will say, "That's an awesome video." Globe earthers might say, "It's just a wall and that doesn't prove anything. Show me what's behind the wall." That brings me to my next point. The Antarctic is shrouded in mystery, and it's impossible for us to see what's behind the ice wall because of this treaty. It's the only treaty of its kind in the world. The Antarctic Treaty is a unique legal agreement that ensures the use of Antarctica for peaceful and scientific purposes through international cooperation. It bans all military activities and promotes the freedom of scientific research on the continent. The Antarctic Treaty was first signed by 12 nations in 1959, and it has been ratified by over 40 nations since then. So ask yourself this: all these countries signed this treaty to do scientific studies of ice and barren lands. That's really all that's down there, right? Is it possible that they are hiding something and that's why they signed this treaty? And why can't you go down there and explore it on your own? It's forbidden. Sure, you can go take a tourist trip down there, but it will be a guided tour, and if you try to go outside of the boundaries of this tour, you will be in big trouble. A globe earther might say, "That's not true. You can go down there and explore it on your own if you want to. Go for it." Really? Then why did this guy get arrested for trying to do just that? It appears you need authorization and permission, and good luck getting through all the red tape to get that. I suggest you watch this film. It explains how difficult the government makes it to get the proper permissions needed to be allowed to explore down there. I will leave a link down below. And to make the mystery even greater, why did one of the greatest explorers of all time, Admiral Richard Byrd, say that there was unexplored land down there the size of the United States? This interview was from 1954.
Our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
An unexplored area as big as the United States? Really? Don't you find it strange that Admiral Byrd said this in 1954, and then only 5 years later, they come up with the Antarctic Treaty that basically makes it a private, restricted area? And no wonder people are curious to know what's down there. Maybe if we were allowed to explore down there, Truman might find the edge of the dome. The deepest hole ever drilled into the Earth is the Kola Super Deep Borehole on the Kola Peninsula in the northwest corner of Russia, located near Finland. The deepest they were able to drill was 7.6 miles down, and they did this in 1981. But science gives us this. The mantle layer is 1,700 miles thick, the outer core is 1,400 miles thick, and the inner core is 1,500 miles thick. So science tells us that the total distance from the surface to the inner core is about 4,600 miles. Yet we can only dig down about 8 miles? Go look up an article about the layers of the Earth, and most of them will show you a CGI image of the Earth. I find it interesting that there are high-altitude balloons showing a curved Earth because they use a GoPro lens that gives it a fisheye, curved look. And then there are balloons that use a normal lens camera and everything appears flat. Let's watch 2 quick videos, a curved lens first and then a flat one. So which one should we trust? Why would anyone trust a video that used a funky, curved lens on it? I think people should trust a normal lens camera and trust their own eyes and trust their own judgment. If it looks flat, then it's probably flat. In October 2012, Felix Baumgartner flew approximately 24 miles up into the stratosphere over New Mexico, United States, and he jumped. This was known as the Red Bull Stratos Space Diving Project. There are many mistakes that they made with this jump, but let me just point out 3 of the major ones. First off, I don't know why they called it a space jump because he was nowhere near space. He jumped from a distance of 127,852 feet, which is 24.2 miles. Pretty high up there, right? Not really, because space is supposed to begin at 62 miles up. This is known as the Kármán line. So they should have called this the 39% of the way to space jump, because that is the true percentage of how far up he was. The second major mistake is they used a GoPro lens making everything appear curved, and so everyone watching will assume we live on a globe Earth. But if you watch carefully, right when the hatch opens, everything appears flat. Then they quickly switch to a curved lens, and everything is once again curved. It's only a few seconds, so I'm going to play it twice. Watch closely. This is so deceiving, and you have to ask yourself, why would they do that? What agenda are they pushing by using a curved lens? And finally, this next mistake is so bad that I couldn't believe my eyes when I caught it. Watch as Felix is floating down and his camera rotates almost 360 degrees, and it appears that we can almost see the entire globe. This clip is only about a second, so I'm going to play it for you 3 times in a row. Watch it very closely and see for yourselves.
Showing Felix in a stable descent. Showing Felix in a stable descent. Showing Felix in a stable descent.
What? So we can almost see the entire globe from 24 miles high? No way! This is so obvious that they are using camera trickery to try to fool us. They just got caught red-handed. It was the space jump that shook the world because there were so many mistakes made. Next up, we can't have a video about the globe Earth versus flat Earth without talking about NASA, because everything we know about space, the moon, the planets, the International Space Station, and everything else comes from them. We rely on them for all this information. So let's get into some topics about NASA, and then all you globe Earthers will understand why flat Earthers don't trust them. When the Apollo 11 returned to Earth, there was a press conference with these 3 guys: Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. This is one of the most bizarre things I have ever seen. Watch very closely and pay attention to their emotions. Watch their body language.
Followed by question and answer. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Apollo 11 crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin. Neil?
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the 3 of us of that decade. We're going to divert a little bit from the format of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon.
What's going on? These guys just accomplished the greatest event in the history of the world, going to the moon and back, and yet they act like this? You would think that their emotions would have been excitement, thrilled, elation, and exhilaration. We might even expect a smile or some shouts of joy or something. But what we actually see looks more like depression, guilt, anxiety, confusion. Did these guys just come back from a funeral? It sure looks like they're lying about something. All I can say is this is one of the reasons why flat earthers don't trust NASA and the moon landings. Apparently, all the tapes of the moon landings have been lost.
It was all recorded on these telemetry tapes. So where is this hard evidence? I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
Could this be true? Mankind's first interplanetary exploration and the original science data is missing?
11, this is Houston, radio check, over.
If it's anywhere, it should be here at NASA's Goddard Space Center in Maryland, home to the National Space Science Data Archives.
This film you're making now, what is it? Does it have a name? I mean, do you have a name for it yet, or
you calling it "Did We Go"?
Did we go? Okay, okay.
Doesn't have it either. The Smithsonian doesn't have it. Johnson doesn't have it.
Right. We've been unable to track it down. I mean, we don't know where this telemetry data ended up, and we don't know what path it may have taken. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not.
NASA admitted that it had lost the original footage of man's first steps on the moon.
That sure is convenient for NASA. The tapes are lost, so we can't go through them and review them. What do globe earthers think of that? Not only did NASA lose all the tapes, but apparently they lost the technology as well.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
He said, it's a painful process to build it back again. That's strange. It gives the technology a human feel to it, with the word painful. Wouldn't it have made more sense to say, it's a difficult process or a challenging process to build it back again? But not the word painful. It's been 50 years since we supposedly went to the moon, and we don't have the technology to go back? Really? We all have been told that space is a vacuum, so surely we wouldn't find air bubbles in space, right? But we do. Watch as the bubbles go straight up. Some of you might say, well, those aren't air bubbles, they're just dust particles. Really? Then why did this guy's helmet slightly fill up with water?
And Terry Virts emerging into the void of space for the first time.
Welcome to EVA there, Colonel Virts. Thank you, Ken Wilmore. Pretty cool.
Yeah, Terry, we can see it. Thanks for making it ripple.
But wait, there's more. Now they're going to start wearing snorkels in space.
Meantime, the urgent mission to repair the International Space Station has taken an unexpected turn. The astronauts doing the spacewalks will now be wearing snorkels after the last astronaut who performed a spacewalk nearly drowned when his helmet filled with water. Let's get to NBC's Tom Costello. He's in Washington with more on all of this. Tom, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. The snorkels they will be wearing are not unlike the snorkels we use in the pool or the ocean.
Snorkels in space? Sounds like a title to a really bad movie. But I have a good explanation for this. NASA does all of its spacewalk training in a huge pool. So the logical conclusion is that these spacewalk videos are fake and are actually just them training in these pools. That is the best explanation for why we see these air bubbles, water-filling helmets, and for them needing snorkels in space. So the question to all you globe earthers is, why is NASA faking these spacewalks? If you have never researched the moon landing hoax, then I think you will be in for a big surprise. There are numerous mistakes that NASA has made, and here are just a few.
One small step for man.
They are some of the most famous images in history. But why are there no stars in the night sky? Why is the American flag waving here when there was no air to cause any breeze?
There are moments where the crosshairs lie behind equipment.
Where guys fall forward and looks like they get yanked up by wires.
Reflected in the visor is a mysterious object.
And then you have this clip of the last takeoff from the moon, Apollo 17's lunar module blastoff.
Stage pushed. Engine arm is S. Okay, I'm going to get to pro. 99, proceeded. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector good. Ag thought. Pitch over.
Who took this video as the moon lander was blasting off from the moon? And who went back to get the camera? This was in 1972. The technology wasn't very advanced back then. Why were there no stars in the background? Why was there no voice delay in the countdown between the ground and the video feed? And did you notice the cheesy special effects of the rainbow sparks? And here we have a huge blooper where this guy's head accidentally gets in the video. It looks like he's playing with a spacecraft toy. When flat earthers say that the ISS is fake, they don't mean that there's not an object up there. What flat earthers mean is that it's not 225 miles up there, floating in space. Let's watch. Let's watch as the astronauts on the International Space Station take a selfie and decide to open a window to get some fresh air. Now let's watch women's hair on the ISS. See if you can tell if these women are using full cans of hairspray or is this just zero gravity. And ask yourself this, why does NASA have a chroma key screen? These screens are used to make video effects, which can superimpose subjects onto virtual backgrounds.
Chroma key means you can use any background that you like. This is what the background looks like. This is the true background that we filmed this on. With chroma key, it means you can have any background that you like this, or maybe this, or maybe this.
Here is a picture of the Space Shuttle Discovery during a landing. From my research, these shuttles have 3 engines, and these engines are only used to propel the shuttle into space. During the descent, it's a big, expensive glider. So if these shuttles are supposed to glide all the way from space to the ground, then why does it sound like it is still using jet engines to land?
30 seconds until touchdown. Main gear, landing gear now down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Pilot Jim Dutton now deploying the drag chute. Nose gear touchdown. That brings an end to the STS-131 mission, the 131st Space Shuttle flight, and the 33rd to the International Space Station. Discovery left Florida on April 5th with 7.6 tons of new science equipment and spare parts, including equipment that should improve the station's capability for Earth observation work, equipment that could help astronauts avoid muscle atrophy, and scientists better understand muscle atrophy, and equipment that will help keep the station systems cooling properly.
If NASA really is launching rockets into space, then why is the trajectory angle so low? Remember, space begins really high up at the 62-mile mark. So why such a low angle? And isn't it kind of strange that the launch sites are always near an ocean? And it really becomes obvious that the launch angle is all wrong when we watch it from about 6 or 7 miles up from airplane windows.
Yeah, folks, space shuttle's going off the right side of the aircraft right now. Those of you on the right side of the aircraft, you can see the space shuttle. If you're on the left side of the aircraft, you can probably see people on the right side of the aircraft looking at the space shuttle.
Plane's gonna tip over. We're standing on the right side. That is remarkable. I would actually set at the VIP section of watch and launch. Yeah. But I've never seen it from the air.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Come on, bear right, buddy. That's great.
Can you still see okay?
Yep, thank you.
The angle looks way too low. And look, the rocket is headed out over the ocean. Maybe that's where it was intended to go and not into space. Here's another one. Hey, what do you know? The angle looks very similar to the angle of the firmament and the angle of a rainbow. Science tells us that the sun is 93 million miles away. Just stop and think about that for a second. 93 million miles away? And with an object that far away, the light should hit us like a blanket of light, hitting the Earth equally in all areas. So why do we observe sun hotspots, or sun spotlights, targeting a specific area on the ground? The only way this makes sense is if the sun is much, much closer to the ground. 93 million miles away? Doesn't seem logical. And how can a $500 camera, the Nikon P900, zoom in so close and with so much detail to an object 93 million miles away? Watch this. I think it is more logical to say that the sun is much closer than science and NASA have told us. The moon is 1/400th the size of the sun and 400 times closer. A coincidence? Why is the moon exactly the same apparent size from Earth as the sun? Surely this cannot be just a coincidence. The odds against such a perfect match are enormous. So, when we witness a total eclipse and the sun and the moon fit perfectly within each other, Do you know what the odds of this happening are? Probably something like this. So what makes more sense? That a Big Bang happened 14 billion years ago, and that everything we see in the universe evolved very slowly over billions of years, and then magically, the sun and moon appear to be the exact same size in our skies. Or that a creator God made them the exact same size on purpose, and that's why they appear the way they do. Many people have this question. If the sun and moon are round, and the planets are all round, then why would the Earth be flat? All you have to do is look at this solar system model of the Earth to determine that they are all round. And that's where the brainwashing comes into play since childhood. We think they are all round because that's what they have told us to believe. But if you compare the NASA images versus what amateur astronomers have taken, you will see the difference. But first, let's talk about 2D versus 3D. 2D can be a round circle, but it's flat. 3D can also be a round circle, but spherical. So as we look at these NASA versus amateur pictures, please look at them like it is the first time you have ever seen them. Take any preconceived ideas that we have all had since we were kids and tell me what you see. Here is Mars. Sure, they both look round, but are they 2D or 3D? Of course, the NASA one looks 3D, but the amateur one looks pretty flat and 2D to me. How can you be sure? Have you been out there to see the sides and the back to verify if it's spherical? Next, Jupiter. Both round again, but there is no way for us to verify if it's flat or spherical. And let's look at Saturn with its ring. I think most people would just assume that they are round, 3D spherical planets because that's what we have all been taught since elementary school projects. Gravity is the hero for globe earthers. Gravity seems to explain everything, and if you don't know the answer, then just say gravity did it. Why don't people walk upside down on the bottom of the Earth? The force that keeps everything on the Earth from falling off it is gravity. It's the pull exerted by one object on another because of its mass. For objects like the Earth, the force exerted by the Earth's mass pulls objects in the direction of the Earth's center. This means that wherever you are on the Earth, the force is always down into the ground. That's what keeps everything on Earth right side up, even those in Australia. Isn't it funny how this explanation is basically saying that wherever you are on the Earth, it will appear flat to you from your vantage point. So people are upside down on a globe Earth right now, but because of gravity, they appear to be right side up and everything looks flat. When an airplane flies around the spherical Earth, because of gravity, the airplane doesn't have to compensate for the curve, and the passengers never feel or see the curve, and everything appears flat, always flat. And every one of these large arrows is a bulge point that would have a curve down both sides of it. But I guess, because of gravity, we can just ignore the fact that we actually live on a solid, physical Earth that can be measured. Well, isn't that convenient? People aren't upside down, planes don't adjust for the curve, and the Earth's shape doesn't really matter, all because of gravity. Have you ever stopped to think about this? Maybe gravity makes everything appear flat because it is flat. You know what? Gravity supports a flat Earth. Let's listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson try to explain gravity.
What is gravity?
I have no idea. Okay, next question.
Wow.
No, here's the difference. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it. But when you start asking, like, what it is, I don't know.
So did I accidentally ask a deeper question than I meant to?
Yeah, no, you were meant to ask deep questions.
Apparently I was.
In life. So to say, what is it? I think Einstein, in an Einsteinian answer, we would say gravity is the curvature of space and time. And objects will follow the curvature of space-time, and we interpret that as a force of gravity. That's probably the best answer I can give to a what is gravity question, or why is there gravity.
I'm sure most of you have heard someone say this at some point. If the Earth is flat, then wouldn't all the boats just fall off the edge? We have the Flat Earth Society to thank for that. Have you ever heard of the term controlled opposition? Most flat earthers believe that the Flat Earth Society was set up as controlled opposition to keep people confused and to put out false information. For example, the Flat Earth Society states that gravity is the upward acceleration of the Earth and that the Earth always accelerates upward at 1g. And because of that, questions like this will come up. The only reason questions like this come up is because the Flat Earth Society is trying to confuse people. And here is the response that most flat earthers will respond with. Most people who research the Flat Earth Society come away saying, those people are crazy, so of course we live on a globe Earth. The end result is that the Flat Earth Society just reinforced these people's beliefs in the globe Earth model. That is controlled opposition in action and being successful. In 2017, astronaut Peggy Whitson set a NASA record for the most days in space at 666 days.
Finally tonight, she's out of this world. The current commander of the International Space Station about to break a big record tonight. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
They call it the Peggy factor, Mission Control's code word for the way superstar astronaut Peggy Whitson always gets the job done.
I love it up here.
Tonight, Commander Whitson making history with her record for any American. By the time she lands in September, her tally will be 666 days in space.
Some people might say, that's just a coincidence that it fell on 666 days. Okay. Then why does NASA say that the Earth is moving around the Sun at 66,600 miles per hour? And to make matters even worse, NASA tells us that the axis, or the tilt of the Earth, is 23.4 degrees. And if we take 90 degrees minus 23.4, what do we get? 66.6 degrees. Oh yeah, and why don't these supposed real pictures of the Earth have a tilt? Where did the tilt go? At the Mount Graham International Observatory in southeastern Arizona is a telescope named Lucifer. The Vatican is working with and in collaboration with the owners of this telescope. Why would the Vatican, a Christian religion that claims to follow Jesus Christ, work with anything named Lucifer? And if you are a Catholic, you should be asking yourself, wouldn't it make more sense if they would have just looked for another telescope to work with? There are plenty of others to choose from. Also, I guess the Pope believes in aliens. We can't have a serious discussion about the globe Earth versus flat Earth without bringing up this subject. I know that globe Earthers will say, don't bring religion and God into it, don't do it. But I say to that, we have to, because evolution is a religion, one without any gods or creators. You see, the planets in the solar system model are a direct result of evolution. Without the Big Bang, there are no planets. Evolution says that everything in our solar system evolved very slowly over billions and billions of years to create itself. There was no help needed by any god, creator, or intelligent designer. So to all the people out there that believe in some type of religion, if you also believe in evolution, then you are really confused. Evolution and creation are complete opposites. And that's why so many people don't trust Pope Francis, because he believes in both. Did you know that in the history of the religions of the world, that the majority of them had the viewpoint of some sort of dome, flat earth model? NASA seems to be the only one who supports evolution as a religion. Something for you to think about. And let me make one more point on this issue. Why is the globe Earth solar system model forced on kids? It's floating over our cribs as little babies. It's in every classroom. It's a school project that most of us did in 3rd grade. And it's pushed everywhere in the world. Is that fair? It's like our government is deciding for us what our kids should believe in. What about creation? Don't kids get to decide for themselves? So the bottom line is this. The godless globe Earth model is part of this evolution system that is being pushed on us. And the flat Earth is about having a creator God, an intelligent designer. It only takes one verse to prove that the Earth is not spinning through space, rotating around the sun. Then spoke Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. God helped Joshua stop the sun from moving. Interesting, isn't it? Because that would mean that God knew that the sun was moving and the earth was not. God is against NASA and science because they say that the earth is moving and the sun is not. So if you are a Christian and claim to trust the Bible, then you should also trust Joshua chapter 10 verse 12, that the sun was moving and then God stopped it. If you want to find out what else the Bible says about a flat, stationary earth, please watch my video, 40 Bible Verses That Prove the Earth is Flat. I will leave a link down below. So ladies and gentlemen, there are 30 examples for you to consider. I can't convince you whether the Earth is a globe or if it's some kind of flat shape. You have to convince yourself. And after considering these 30 examples, you might think, well, why would they lie to us? If there's no globe, there's no rotation. If there's no rotation, there's no orbit. Gravity would not exist. It would not be heliocentric, but rather it would be geocentric. There would be no Big Bang Theory, no Darwinism, and no evolution. The missing link would be gone. We would not be randomly floating around in space. We would be unique. We would be the center of everything. Intelligent design would make sense. Having a God would make sense. There would be an awakening of mankind, and it would be the end of the New World Order, the end of these secret societies. And I think that is reason enough for us to all question what the true shape of the Earth really is. Thank you for watching, and God bless.